some of these stories ahead. The Philippines' dollar surplus is expected to widen this year, but the country's central bank also predicts a larger current account deficit. Top financial firm Nomura Global Securities says that the BSP's recent decision to slash the reserve requirement ratio of banks will boost the Philippine economy. We'll talk more about the BSP's latest move with the co-founder and chairman of Luna Securities, John Gatmaitan. Overseas Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris is set to roll out new economic proposals this week. She also has this to say to her election rival, Donald Trump.
Let's have another debate. There's more to talk about.
But for Trump, it's too late for another debate. Let's now take a look at how the Asian markets are doing to start the new trading week. Asian stocks are set to open lower with the health of the Chinese economy taking center stage. Contracts in Australia, Hong Kong, and mainland China indicate early losses, while Japanese markets are closed for a holiday. Latest data shows that the Chinese government have cut spending while the youth jobless rate rises to its highest level this year. Now, over at Wall Street, U.S. stock futures are flat with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all posting marginal gains. Major U.S. stock indices were subdued on Friday's session, but still secured weekly gains of at least 1%. Now, over in Europe, the major stock markets all finished lower on Friday, with the German DAX retreating by 1.5% after hitting a record high in the previous session. London's FTSE 100 lost 1.2% as data showed UK debt reached 100% of Britain's annual GDP, while consumer confidence fell. In the currency market, the dollar remains steady, with the dollar index flat at 100.79. Now, gold hit a fresh record high on Friday as the prospects of lower U.S. borrowing costs made the precious metal more attractive as a safe haven investment. And major oil benchmarks closed lower on Friday, but still ended up by more than 4% for the week. Brent futures gave up 0.5% to $74.49 a barrel, while WT crude futures also fell by 0.4% to $71.92. Now, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas expects improvements in the country's external payments this year, leading to a higher surplus. The central bank now predicts a balance of payments surplus of $2.3 billion, up from the previous estimate of $1.6 billion. For next year, they project a surplus of $1.7 billion, slightly higher than the previous $1.5 billion estimate. Now, this positive outlook is driven by strong global growth and domestic growth, easing inflation, and better world trade activity. However, the central bank also anticipates a larger current account deficit of $6.8 billion, up from the earlier forecast of $4.7 billion. For next year, the deficit is expected to come in at $5.5 billion compared to the previous estimate of $2 billion. More than 300 billion pesos could enter the Philippine economy after the central bank lowers the reserve requirement ratio for large local banks. This according to a top financial firm, Nomura Global Markets Research. Nomura says more cuts in the RRR may occur next year as the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas aims to reduce it to 5%. They note, however, that there's no urgency for the BSP to make immediate adjustments. This is part of a long-term plan to lower the RRR to low single digits, a target initially set for 2023. The BSP has reduced the reserve requirement for big banks and non-bank financial institutions to 7%, while digital banks now have a requirement of 4%. Thrift banks will see their requirement cut to 1%, and rural and cooperative banks will no longer have a reserve requirement. The Philippine Statistics Authority is actively searching for a new partner to take over the national ID printing contract as it wraps up its deal with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. At a Senate hearing, PSA's Undersecretary Claire Dennis Mapa says that they're winding down operations at the central bank complex after producing 55 million physical cards. The PSA paid the BSP 1.4 billion pesos for the printing services, covering 90% of the required IDs. The statistics agency is already coordinating with prospective providers to take over the printing of the new IDs. The central bank again justified its termination of the all-card contract, citing delays in printing as the reason for that. The BSP reiterates that the deal with all-card was limited to an equipment and raw material supply contract and not a subcontracting arrangement. Now, the United States, Australia, Japan, and India are enhancing security cooperation in the tension-filled South China Sea and Taiwan Strait. Leaders of the Quad nations announced these plans at a summit hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden in Delaware. Biden, along with Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, India's Narendra Modi, and Australia's Anthony Albanese, stated that their countries will conduct a joint Coast Guard operations next year and boost military logistics cooperation. While the White House stated that the summit was not aimed at any specific country, Biden criticized China's actions in the South China Sea.
We believe Xi Jinping is looking to focus on domestic economic challenges and minimize the turbulence in China diplomatic relationships, and he's also looking to buy himself some diplomatic space, in my view, to aggressively pursue China's interest. China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region, and it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South Asia, and the Taiwan Straits. And it's true across the scope of our relationship, including on economic and technology issues. At the same time, we believe intense competition requires intense diplomacy.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has previously objected to the Quad, claiming it's an effort to encircle Beijing and to escalate conflict. U.S. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris is set to announce new economic proposals this week. Reuters sources say that the policies aim to help Americans build wealth and include economic incentives for businesses.
You've heard me talk about, I believe, in what we can create in terms of opportunity for the American people. I've named it an opportunity economy, which really in short form is about what we can do more to invest in the aspirations, the ambitions, and the dreams of the American people while addressing the challenges that they face.
Harris also urges her election rival Donald Trump to accept another debate next month as a follow-up to their first face-off last September 10th.
There's more to talk about, and the voters of America deserve to hear the conversations that I think we should be having on substance, on issues, on policies.
But for Trump, it's too late for another debate because early voting has begun in some states. Let's take a look at the week ahead for world markets. First up is the September Flash Purchasing Managers Index, or the PMI data for major economies, including the U.S., Europe, Australia, and Japan, as this will provide a current snapshot of the global economy. Signs of further weakness in the PMIs could lead to more aggressive rate cuts in the months ahead. Now, speaking of rate cuts, Switzerland and Sweden are both expected to lower their interest rates this week. Markets are, however, divided on the size of the potential cuts by the Swiss National Bank, while Sweden's Riksbank is almost certain to deliver a 25 basis point cut. In the U.S., the Fed's key inflation measure, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, is due out on September 27th. Economists predict that the August index will show a 2.5% increase year on year. Investors will also receive new data on consumer confidence and durable goods this week. And here in Asia, Japan's ruling party will elect a new leader and prime minister on the 27th. 9 candidates are in the running, with 3 frontrunners holding very different views on the central bank's policies. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line.
Health and wellness? It's experimental.
Because I like the idea of a salmon sperm DNA on my face.
Beauty? It's experimental.
Oh my God, my wrinkles, I didn't know.
Even fashion, it's experimental. We're here to dive into the trends and explore the taboos and the daring. We're not just talking about it, we're testing it. It's like our laboratory. It's the Lifestyle Lab.
The trailblazers, the disruptors, the titans of the industry.
We should safeguard our tradition.
We've got 53 sites in the Philippines, and each of those sites have been gold to adopt a community.
Know what drives them as we dig deeper into their stories.
We're also bringing and helping medical tourism.
The government has to support these local farmers.
Industry Beacon on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Simulan na natin ang agenda. Bumulong na ang plenary debate sa national budget para sa 2025. Mas malamig na aircon at mas malakas na Wi-Fi. Mga pangako ng SMC-led consortium sa operasyon at maintenance ng NAIA. Hapon pa rin bang malakas ang ulan dyan sa Dagupan?
Bandang alas 2 ng hapon, bumuhos na nga ang malakas na ulan. Ito ay nagdulot ng pagbaha.
Sa bawat issue may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
Welcome back to Basis Points Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange open. Just a few minutes ago, let's take a look at the initial figures. Right now, the market is starting the week off strong. We're at the 7,300 level at 73.09, up by 0.8%. The broader all shares index is up as well, up by 0.6% to 39.18. All the sub-indices are in the green, led by the financials, up by 1.42%, and the mining and oil counters up by 1.3%. Now, to help us make sense of the numbers and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas' recent move to slash the reserve requirement ratio of banks, we have with us the co-founder and chairman of Luna Securities, John Gatmaitan. Good morning, John. Thanks for being here with us.
Good morning, Maiki, and good morning to your televiewers. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, John, top global financial firm Nomura says that the cut in the reserve requirement ratio of banks is going to be injecting about $300 billion in the Philippine economy. What does this mean for stocks, starting with the banking sector?
Right. For the banks, that would be an extra income, meaning if should they be able to deploy that easily with the kind of that amount, that would be 1.2 trillion in terms of economic activity, and easily that should bring about 5 to 8% improvement in their income as a base.
You know, more money in the system, economic activity is going to pick up. That said, what's your year-end target for the PSEI? Right now, we're at 73.09.
Okay. Last year, we were looking at 7.275 given the rates now. Maybe just a little adjustment, but I think it should be there with based on the risk-reward metrics that we have. It's almost at the high.
Okay, so for the year end of 2025, I understand you've got a target of 7,200 to 7,500. Sorry, for year end 2024, right? 2024, 72 to 7,500. And for 2025, how's that looking? What's your target?
Given the numbers now, we're looking at 7,800 and 8,200.
Okay, nice numbers to look forward to. Now, going back to the BSP, they've got room to cut interest rates with debt to GDP ratio at 0.65%. How much of a rate cut are you anticipating from the BSP following the Fed's supersized cut last week?
Okay, the initial cut most probably will see it anywhere between 25 to 50 basis points. So maybe we'll see it at 675. But more importantly, is the reserve requirement. It offers two-pronged, not only liquidity, but also for local banks to be competitive vis-a-vis regional markets with much lower reserve requirements.
Okay, now that rate cut, the rate cuts, where do you see that taking the Philippine peso?
All right. The central bank or the BSP has been doing a great job, well-calibrated move, and maybe we'll see peso by year-end in time with the influx of dollar remittances, somewhere about 52 to 55.
You know, it's a very difficult balancing act, you know, for the BSP, because, you know, as the peso strengthens, they take away a lot of the purchasing power of our OFWs and for the BPOs. What do you think is the ideal level for the peso?
Okay. What's interesting also is what's happening globally. You know, we've been seeing also people, other countries cutting interest, and of course it's also a balancing act. So everything has to be in line with other countries, given, you know, a currency. Major currency global adjustments.
Okay. John, what do you think is the best asset class right now for investors?
Of course, it's always the stocks. I've been a stock market person. You know, two things. It's always the yield and inflation. Okay, it really depends on your lifestyle. The inflation that you see may not apply to you. You know. Whatever expenses you have, most probably, if you go to your favorite restaurant, prices are up 30%. So it's not the headline inflation that you. So you have to hedge yourself, and the best is still stock market.
Now, going to specifics, if the show basis points gave you 100,000 pesos right now, what specifically would you be investing in?
Okay, I'll be in consumer sector, and at the same time in the power generation sector. Hopefully there are more representatives of the tourism sector.
Okay, what specific consumer stocks and what specific power stocks? Are you looking at generation or the distribution firms on the power side?
On the consumer side, I'm looking at Pure Gold, I'm looking at DNL. And then on the generation side, on the power, more on the generation side, will be AC Energy and First Gen.
Okay, so top picks, DNL, Pure Gold, FGen, and ACEN.
Yes.
All right, on another front, you're looking to democratize investing in the Philippine Stock Exchange. You founded Luna Securities, which is the country's first ever cloud-based trading platform. Tell us about this cloud-based trading platform.
Okay.
What can you do with it?
Okay, when you say cloud-based, you don't house or own your own servers. No, there are better ways of doing it, which is basically in the cloud. In the cloud, you don't have to start with assuming if I have 100 clients, I need a computer. If tomorrow I have 1 million will come in, it's just a click to service everyone. No, unlike the old ones wherein everything is on-prem. You need to own everything. You have to put it up ahead. And putting something now requires a lot of capital, right? So that's the beauty of how technology has evolved these days.
Now, you've only been operational for 2 years.
Right.
And without any marketing push, you're already managing about 600 million pesos worth of discretionary funds. Can you talk to us about the gap in the market that you're filling with Luna Securities?
All right. What we started from my previous life is the high net worth individuals. What we have is just really a small fraction. We haven't really invited many friends because I want to make sure that our system is working very well, and at the same time our approach to investment is what we have leveraged technology, and it's back tested. So going forward, it's something that I can say that it's working and has a proof of returns. No?
Yeah, very interesting what you're doing. It's even got dynamic pricing, which means the bigger the trade, the lesser the commission fees. So that's all the time we have for today. But thank you so much, John. We'd love to talk about maybe Luna Securities specifically on another episode.
Thank you. Thank you, Maiki.
All right, That was John Gatmaitan, the co-founder and chairman of Luna Securities. Now on to more news. The Energy Regulatory Commission now has an officer in charge and CEO following the suspension of former ERC Chief Mona Lisa de Malanta. Malacanang appoints Justice Undersecretary Jessie Hermogenes Andres for the role, breaking the tradition of appointing the most senior ERC commissioner as OIC. Andres is a former director of Benguet Corporation and was also the chief of staff of former Vice President Noli de Castro. In other news, Toyota Motor Philippines is recalling 699 Lexus vehicles sold in the country between 2022 to 2023 due to potential camera issues. The automaker identifies the Lexus RX as the most affected model. In a letter to the Department of Trade and Industry, Toyota says that the laser welding on the cameras may be insufficient, leading to water ingress, short circuits, and failure to display images from the front or rear of the vehicles. Owners of the affected units will be informed and instructed to contact Lexus Manila or accredited dealers for a free inspection or replacement. Now, ride-hailing giant Grab announces key leadership changes in its Philippine operations, starting with the appointment of Ronald Roda as the country head. Roda was mostly recently Chief Operating Officer of Grab Philippines, where he led the Grab car business for over 6 years. Grace Veracruz, who has led Grab Philippines in the past 4 years, is assuming a regional role as the head of regional corporate strategy. Now, the country's flag carrier, Philippine Airlines, opens a museum showcasing the company's rich history. Among the exhibits is a display of flight attendants' uniforms through the years. They also provide an immersive experience with plane seats, screens, and model aircrafts. PAL is calling this their largest and most immersive learning experience. Now, the museum, which is located at the Lucio K. Tan Jr. Center in Pasay City, is open from Tuesdays to Fridays. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel, always on top.
Good morning, I'm Rain Musni and welcome to Follow the Money. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey.
Harness the power of your money so it can take you. Where there is growth, where there is investment, where there is freedom, Rain Musni sits down with the experts to know where your finances is taking you. Weekdays, 10:30 a.m. on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. A platter of positivity.
Good morning, you beautiful people. It's a brand new day, and you know what that means.
A cup of the hottest information.
And we're ready to shake the world with fresh news.
And a slice of what to expect for the whole day.
The Vermonts are here, and they're bringing the heat.
That's everything you need to keep you going through the day. Join Paulo Del Rosario, Ann Carrillo, and Monique Tuzon. It's a beautiful day, 7 a.m. on BNC, the Billionaire.